Hey guys, welcome to DevOps School. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about Docker. It helps us to create, deploy and run applications by using containers. After going through this tutorial, I promise you that the concept and understanding of the Docker will be absolutely clear to you.
But before that, let me ask you a few things. Are you dreaming of a career with higher pay and more responsibilities? Or are you ready to take your skills to the next level this year? Then start investing in DevOps School certification level courses which will help you to emerge skills for a wide range of entry level roles and as well as higher potential future positions. But with thousands of courses online and in classroom worldwide, finding the right one for your career goals can be difficult. You can consider our courses like Agile Developer, Agile QA, DevOps Certified Professionals, Site Reliability Engineering, DevSecOps, and Masters in DevOps Engineering, where you will have access to well-structured, easy-to-follow course content that has been developed and will be delivered by industry professionals. You can join on our training programs globally through online platforms, and if you are looking for classroom workshops, then we have regular sessions available in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Mumbai and in Pune. Simply compare our many courses, find the one that suits your style and schedule best and start today.
So we were discussing about some of the problems which we have is how can we run app with less hardware, more apps with less hardware, how can we deploy and roll back faster, and how can we reduce the waste of running app in data center. So guys, understand this here. So here we migrated from physical servers to virtual server. Why? So look at this here. So let's say you want to run app. Okay. So how many app you want to run? So here you want to run 5 apps. So app 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the era of physical servers, you have how many you want to run apps. So how many physical machine you need? So let's say this is the hardware layer. On top of that, you have operating system in which you create one user. Think about it. Okay. And you get one network, one process map, one mount, and then you run Apache or any other app also. Like that, we have hardware again, operating system again, and then user applications. So like that, this will continue and then you have it. Now the question is, have you ever thought about it? Your minimum requirement of the hardware for the load age, minimum requirement is 3 GB. Okay, 3 GB RAM. Now your maximum, when we have a very peak in the hardware, peak in your load traffic, then the maximum requirement is, let's say, 15 GB. So tell me guys, here you have a 3 GB minimum when you have a lowest load. Maximum load you have at a maximum traffic time is 15 GB RAM. Now you tell me, so when you set up a hardware, will you buy a 3 GB machine, physical machine, or you'll buy a 15 GB machine? Tell me. To address your traffic, which one you'll buy? 15 GB. Of course, it's a very simple question. You'll buy 15 GB. But you know one thing, your average traffic is, let's say, not more than 5 GB. Average. So you calculate, let's say you are running 10 apps. 10 apps is to 10 GB. That means 100 GB on an average you got wasted. It's just I'm comparing the 10 GB only, 10 machine only. Okay. So your average utilization is 5 GB and your peak uptime utilization is 15 GB. Minimum is 3 GB. So of course you are wasting 100 GB of hardware resources of 150 GB. That means what is your utilization is? Think about it. Your total capacity is 150 GB. Your utilization is 50 GB. Whereas your wastage is 100 GB. Okay. So this is the waste you see 80% or 70% on an average. If you are running the application in data centers, you are wasting the resources. And that was the problem. See here. How can we reduce a waste of running app in a data center? Okay. So 100 GB you are wasting. So what we got? Then we got virtual servers. Okay. We got a virtualizations. From the physical server, we got a virtualization server. In the virtualization server, what we do, I'll tell you. In the virtualization server, we have a hardware. Think about it. Look at this image. We have a hardware. Okay. On top of that, we have a kernel. On top of that, we have a hypervisor. Hypervisor like what? VMware or Hyper-V or VirtualBox, the one which you are using today and for this session. And so you have a hypervisor. And hypervisor create what? They create a VM. So you create one VM, two VM, three VM, four VM. So you get a VM, 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 VM. Now on VM, what you have? Operating system. Correct? Is this the correct? Everyone have used this, right? Inside a VM, what do you have? Operating system. Correct, right? Yeah. And operating system, you have one user and you run Apache like this. You have a user, you run Apache. Again, some of the things which I am not discussing here, these are the things. Because here, operating system gives you all this stuff which we have discussed already. So that is the way application Apache or any other application can run. So now because of virtualization technology, what you got it? Because of virtualization technology, if you have a more hardware remaining, you can use that hardware for other project, for other purposes. For example, let me tell you here. Let's say earlier you had a 10 boxes in the production server. You cannot consume the 10 boxes in the test environment or anywhere else also. You know that. You cannot use it. But because of that, you have a hardware available right now. You can create a more virtual box and you can use in the production boxes, no, not only production, but a pre-production also, anywhere else also, and you can give it to any other projects also. Okay, so these are the reasons. Using that, you can minimize the wastage and maximize the output. Correct, guys? Did you understand me? Did you understand what I'm trying to say? Right. So now the question is, this was the model which we were following till now. This was the model which we were following till now. But you know one thing? Virtualization is not helping us also. Remember, virtualization is also not helping us, because earlier we were happy with the, let's say, let me talk about the Gmail only. We were happy, Gmail when it got introduced with a 250 MB, I guess, right? If I'm not wrong. Now, how much you are getting in the Gmail?
15 GB.
15 GB. So earlier you got started with a 250 MB. Now you got a 15 GB. You can see how many times got multiplied it. And all these are free. So question is, yeah, with the help of the internet, we got the lots of application which we are using and which we are consuming free of cost. So they have to reduce that the product which they are running, they need to reduce that runtime cost so they can offer you free services more and more. So the question is, do we have any technology which can help us to further reduce the wastage, further reduce the running more application with the less hardware, or deploy and roll back faster? Do we have any technology? So for having all these technology problems in place, then we started migrating to container. So one thing is clear, we run application in a physical server, we run application in a virtual server, so we do run application in a container, but still we are not sure about it. What is container? We'll discuss about it, but actually container help you to address all these problems. Using container technology, you can reduce the wastage of running applications, you can deploy and roll back faster, and you can run more applications, more containers with a less hardware. But the question still remains same, what is container? Okay, so now we are talking about the containers now. Okay, so now in order to understand the container, you have to look at it virtualization model one more time. Okay, so you have to look at it virtualization model one more time. So here you have a hardware. Okay, and top of that we have a kernel. Okay. Okay, I'm preparing this image one more time. Just see that. And then you have a hypervisor like a VMware and all. And then you have a VM 1, 2, 3, 4. In the VM, you know that you have operating system. Each VM you have operating system means kernel again. This is also operating system sort of it. Okay. And operating system. Let me remind it to you. Each operating system get you the one network, one process map, one MNT. I said very clearly, PID MNT network, whereas one user can be created and your Apache can run, application can run. Same goes with other operating system also. So are you clear with this? This is your hypervisor model, virtualization model. Are you comfortable with this model?
Yeah.
Now the question is, can you please find it out? Waste in this. In this model, the ultimate goal is to run application. Remember, running application is your ultimate goal. So what are the wastage here we have to run applications? Tell me. Do you find a drawbacks in this architecture of virtualization?
Yeah, that's
Tell me, guys.
The memory allocation, right? Rich.
Tell me.
We are loading a lot of operating systems.
Right. Yeah. Just look at this here. Think about it logically. 4 applications you are running right now. How many operating system you have? 5. See here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. On top of this hypervisor is very heavyweight. When I say heavyweight means this. See, this operating system also consumes CPU, RAM, okay, and licensing cost and storage also, by the way. So here they consume CPU, RAM, storage, licensing cost. CPU, RAM, storage, licensing cost. Like that, you have a 5 operating system. They all consume CPU, RAM, and operating system. And on top of that, you have a hypervisor like a VMware or VirtualBox that also consumes so much of resources. Okay, so much of resources. For example, if you start the VirtualBox and you go to the task manager and see that how much CPU and how much RAM is consuming alone without running a VM. Okay, you can find out. So this is the heavyweight applications. Hypervisor is a heavyweight applications. Okay, so here if you see that the question was, what is the wastage? So here to run an application, 4 application, we have a 5 operating system plus hypervisor. So can we convert this hypervisor to lightweight? That's a question. Lightweight. And can we get rid of this operating system? Think about it. Can we get rid of this operating system? Is there any possibility? That means I can run 4 applications having 1 operating system. Is there any possibility? Are you thinking about it? Is there any possibility?
A common noise.
Is there any possibility?
yeah. Only the common capabilities is needed. Why to have everything?
Think about it, guys. See here. I said very clearly what are the components in operating system you need to have to run any application or software. What you need? This one. Okay. So actually, it's possible. Let me do that. So here, let's recreate the image one more time. This is a virtualization model. Okay. Now I'm creating one hardware layer. Okay. And on top of that, you have a kernel. Okay. Guys, kernel, you know very well, it has all these component which I am going to write it, that is called PID, network, user, mount, C groups, capability. All these 6 which I have already mentioned here. Now, can we do one thing? Right now, can we create a multiple user? One user, 2 user. Okay, let me create a user. So here first let me create a PID. So you got a one PID, you got a one network, you get a network, what is this? Mount, right? This one, you get a one mount. And can we create a multiple user? So one user, 2 user, 3 user, 4 user. So now all this user is accessing the network mount PMAP common. Now can this user can run Apache? Yes. On 80 port? Yes. Can this user run process ID of Apache at the 50 PID? Yes. Can this user can write files of Apache in OPT Apache? Yes. Simple. Other user can he run Apache? Yes. But same port? No. So what he needs it? Port need to be changed. 81, 82, Apache, 83. Think about it logically. Can he run 82, 83, 84 ports? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
here, can he have a PID 51, PID 52, PID 53? Can it be possible?
Yes.
O Apache, instead of O Apache, he will write Apache 1, Apache 2 directory, Apache 3. Is it possible?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if it is possible, there is a problem in this. The problem is, there is a network load balancer which wants to balance 4 Apache. So this network load balancer, can he load balancer all 4 Apache? Is it possible? Network load balancer wants to balance all 4 Apache. Is it possible?
Yes. Yes.
Think about it. How the network load balancer works. Network load balancer, it has to be different IP address and same port number. Don't you think so? Again, I am repeating. Network load balancer need a different IP address, same port. Here it's opposite. It's a one IP address, multiple port. So load balancer will not work. If the load balancer will not work, how end user will be able to access this Apache, one of the Apache? Are you getting my points?
Yes.
Are you getting the problems? Everyone?
Yeah.
If you have a doubt, please say clearly, guys, so I can help you now itself. Okay. So guys, yeah. So now think about it. Here, when you have operating system, on PID, one MNT, one network get initialized, where the multiple user. So multiple user means 1, 2, 3, 4, and number of it. Now, is there any possibility rather than think about it, rather than all users sharing the same MNT mount, same network, and same process map, we shall create a user. Think about it. Think logically. You shall create a user, and each user have their own network, mount, process map. Think about it. Network will come from where? Mount will come from where? Process map will come from where? And this user will come from here. Can I create one more user, this time not with a shared network, with their own network, own process map, mount, and own process map? So is there any possibility or not? Tell me. Is there any possibility? That means each user, think about it, each user you create, you will not see the common network, common mount, and common process ID, but you will see your own process map, your own network, and your own mount. That means in a simple way, you can run Apache on 80 port, you can run Apache on 80 port, you can run Apache on 50 PID, you can run Apache on 50 PID, you can write in C Apache because you have your own C drive, here you have your own C drive. Is there any possibility? If I instantiate at the each user level, is there any possibility? Instead of having share network, share mount, and share PMAP, can we have a common independent network, independent mount, and independent PMAP? Is there any possibility? Guys. Hello? Hello?
So if we do, yeah, Rajesh, one question.
Yes.
If we share the same network or the mount or the process angles, can two different users have
Sir,
the same?
you are speaking something, but I am not able to understand your. Hello. This is possible. The problem here is PC. What is the PC stand for? Anyone? What is the PC stand for?
Process controller.
Right? Personal computing. When I say personal means for human. Computing means CPU, RAM, storage. Okay. So see here, understand that. When this is possible, okay, this is possible. But actually, this operating system was designed, understand the concept, designed for PC, for human, for personal computing, not for running, understand that, running applications in a data center. Yes. So this architecture, wherever it was designed in 1980, it was designed for human beings. They wanted to give you the personal computing devices. So they designed this operating system. Because of that, they said, okay, to each human being, we will have a kernel, we'll have a namespace, but we will allow only one PID, one MNT, one network. Because what you will do with the multiple PID, multiple network, and multiple mount. Though you can create multiple, but operating system companies, they did not create it initialize multiple times. but they allowed you to initialize user namespace multiple times. Why? Because your friends, your family can use it with a multiple user session, but you will be able to access same mount, same network, same process map. So that was done. But guys, now PC concept is gone. Personal computing concept is gone. Now we are running, think about it. Now we are running applications not in PC, but data center. So if you want to run in a data center at the large scale, then you have to change the architecture also. Now the question is why? For this problem. So what about if you run the application in this fashion? Let's understand this. So here, what we are doing, we are saying this is a hardware layer. Okay. On top of that, you have, let me change this. On top of that, you have a kernel. Okay. Kernel, when I say, again, please understand that all of this. Okay. And then top of that, there is a user. One user, two user, three user. And each user will get their own network namespace, own mount, not shared one, own process map, one network, own mount, one process map, one network, mount, process map. So now Apache here can be run on the 80 port 50 PID C Apache. 80 port 50 PID C Apache. 80 port 50 PID C Apache. Why? Because they are running in this, and this is a user space. This is user space. This is user space. Is there any possibility if you instantiate each one of these at the user level, is it possible or not? Right.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it is possible. But guys, there is a problem here. Yes. This is possible because see, ultimately, what was the question? Understand that. What are the components in operating system you need to have to run any application? And what was the problem? This was the problem. So guys, here, look at this here. How many operating system you have in this? In the 4 application, 5 operating system. How many operating system you have here? 3 applications. How many operating system?
1.
So what you are saving? So much of CPU, so much of RAM, so much of storage and licensing cost. But there is a big problem. Big problem. And the problem is, operating system company says, we would not allow this. Yeah. Operating system like a Linux and Microsoft, like they said, boss, we create operating system for human. Understand that. We create operating system for PC. I cannot allow you to create initialize all these namespaces at each user level. We allow to initialize these namespaces at the system level, not at the user level. You cannot do that. We will not allow. Then there is one guy who has come, and his name is Solomon Hykes. Let's look at it. Look at him. Solomon Hykes. This guy came and said, no problem. You will not allow. I understand that. But what I will do, I will write a wrapper on top of it. So what Solomon Hykes did, he wrote on top of kernel, he wrote one wrapper, one particular layer, okay, on top of kernel. And this layer is called Docker. Okay, that means Docker can be installed anywhere on the kernel. Understand that? See where it is. Where is the placement of Docker? Docker is on top of the kernel, and kernel you can have in on operating system. Operating system, it can be in a physical machine and virtual machine. That means Docker you can install in a physical machine and in virtual machine. Don't you think so? Correct, right? Yes. Yeah. So Docker, he said, Solomon Hykes, this guy said, I will develop one tool, Docker, and this Docker will manage these special users. So guys, there are users which is managed by system itself, directly kernel. These users are managed by Docker, but taking the Docker take the capability from kernel only. Understand that? So in a simple way, if I put it up, guys, you have logged in right now as a Krish or whatever the user you have. You are also a container. I am also a container. And Docker, those who create a user and assign the network, mount, and CMAP is also a container. What is this? This is a container. What is this? This is a container. What is this? This is a container managed by Docker. What Docker gives it to each container? One user space with their own mount, network, CMAP. Network, mount, CMAP. User space, network, mount, and PMAP. But the user like you and me, okay, will not get their own network, mount, and PMAP. We are sharing that network, mount, and PMAP. Okay. So guys, Docker and operating system takes all this capability from the namespace which you have in the kernel. So guys, now did you understand what is a container? What is a container?
The container is like our applications, right? On the network and everything will be painted with Docker.
So guys, container is a initialization of, okay, understand that, user space. See here guys, you have, see user space. See this image. This is one user, right? One user. Okay. Namespace with their own network namespace, process map namespace, PID namespace, MNT namespace. This is the technical definition of container. In short, container is a lightweight, understand that, application runtime environment. Lightweight application runtime independent, lightweight independent application runtime environment. In short way, we call it here. App runtime environment, which is lightweight and independent. Okay, so here, that means if you run applications here, you are having shared environment. But if you run application in the container, these all containers get their own resources. Who's providing it? Docker. Docker is taking the resources from where? Again, from the kernel only. Kernel only. Guys, so now did you understand that?
So the understanding is Docker is creating an instance of these three things, like the common shared one.
Yes, that's correct. So what is Docker is doing? Docker is creating one space, user space, and attaching one, they're creating one network, one PID and one MNT with the help of the kernel namespace and attaching to this user. That means each user will get their own network, the PID and MNT rather than shared one. That's what Docker is doing. Now Docker is taking all these capabilities from where? Namespace. What it is? Kernel. That's the reason I draw Docker on top of the kernel. Did you understand that?
Yes.
Now, guys, Docker will, remember, Docker is a running application. Understand that. In the host machine on top of kernel. So anything which is running by Docker is a process in the system. So all the CPU allocation will be managed by C groups of the kernel. And which user, think about it, which user is a root user or a non-root user, that will be decided by capabilities again, which is beneath in the kernel itself as part of the security capabilities. And that's the image which I have shown you just now. Just a second. Let me show you. Just a second. Kernel namespace. Image. See, so this is the image I showed you, which is taken by the all internal structure of kernel. Right? That's the reason I asked you which are the components you need to run any application, software. These are the components, and ultimately each user need each applications get to see. The question was, what are the components you need for any application? So Apache to run, or Nginx to run, or MySQL to run, or Jenkins to run, or Jira to run, what you need? One user space, one network to access, one mount for file system, and one process ID for allocating the CPU and RAM. That's all. Make sense? Everyone understood this? What is a container, guys, now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the kernel section, you showed the user namespace can be.
Mahesh, I know that you are speaking something, but your voice is not complete. I mean, it's not audible clearly to me.
Okay, let me try to reconnect. I think
Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
On the mount, right? See, the mount is the storage, right? If you look at the storage, we cannot have it as shared, right? It should be partitioned, right? We cannot create a copy of a storage.
Okay. Yeah. So mount, yeah, it's a very good question actually you have asked. Let me answer this question. Okay. What is mount? What is mount? So guys, a mount is you might have done mount in your daily activities, like, okay, mount E drive, mount F drive, or mount inside a Linux also at some place. So what is a mount actually? So mount is basically a file system. Okay. Mount is basically file system. File systems. Now the question is a type of file system. So guys, there are different kind of file systems what we have. One of the file system what you say is a boot file system. Okay, boot file system. Okay, now there is another file system what you can call it root file system. Another file system we call it a user file system, and another is like a application file system. The definition of file system is very broad. File system means a combination of directory and files for some specific purpose. In fact, if you have worked with a Git repository is also one file system which has multiple directories and multiple files. So guys, file system is having very broad definition. In terms of this file system, I am talking about system file systems. Okay, so understand that what exactly this is. So here, what is a boot file system? So guys, boot file system, aka kernel file system. See, I told you Kernel is having nothing but a files programs actually. Understand that. Kernel is nothing but a programs itself. So kernel programs is in the boot file system. Now in this, where will be the kernel located? In this, where will be the kernel located? Here. So kernel file system, you will have it here somewhere. So the moment you switch it on your system, so the kernel file system get loaded, and that is what initialize your operating system. Okay. Now after this, you will have a root file system. Can you see it here? So kernel file system cannot be seen during runtime. During runtime. That means, okay, if I say, okay, I want to know the Windows kernel, I cannot go and see. Where is that? Where is the kernel files? I don't know where it is. I can see C drive, I can see E drive, but I cannot see kernel file system in a runtime, during runtime, because it's loaded. Okay, so it's loaded. So you cannot see. That's a boot file system, we call it. Okay, understand that. In the after that, we have a root file system. Root file system, which you can see it. Let me show you the root file system. Okay. So here, this is a root file system. Guys, have you seen this? This one, have you seen that somewhere? This skeleton, have you seen that?
Yes.
This is called root file system. In the Windows, this is called root file system. See here. C drive and E drive is a root file system. Inside that, you have a program files, and Windows and all these things is a root file system. Okay. So yes, you can see root file system. Okay. Now what is the user file system? So guys, user file system like my desktop. This is a Rajesh user account. So can you see it? No. Can I see it? Yes, because I have logged in. This is my file system. So if I go to this directory here under the users, Rajesh Kumar, this is only Rajesh Kumar can see, or the root can see. Not any other normal account can see this. So this is called user file system. Okay. Now what is called application file system? So application file system, such as, let's say I install all of my software in the C drive tools, and you see so many softwares is there, whereas Maven file systems are here. So this is called application file system of Maven. This is called Java file system. This is called Git file system. Okay, so this is called applications. So guys, in order to run any applications, you need boot file system, root file system, user file system, and application file system. Understand that? Again, I'm saying, in order to run applications, you need a boot file system, root file system, application, user file system, and application file system. Whereas if I look at it here, let's figure it out. Where is the boot file system? So guys, boot file system is here. Where you get a root file system? Root file system, you get it in the mount. Here, this is the mount. And where do you get the user file system? Here you get in the mount here. So here, root file system and a boot file system and application file system, you get in the mount. So here, in short, kernel is here, root, boot, and application is here, and this is the complete, and each user get their own mount. See here. So that way, this is the complete, that's what I said, this is a complete independent runtime environment. So in short, actually, each user will get their own root file system, user file system, and application file system. Did you get this answer?
Yeah, so yeah, that answer. The question is, another question is, right, let's say the host has only 30 GB, okay, so only the mount can be within that space only, right? let's say it should be partition only, right? Let's say you are running 10 container base for 3 GB space. The space should not be shared with other containers.
When you say you are talking the hardware, remember hardware is where? Your CPU, RAM and storage is beneath the kernel. On top of that kernel, what happens? Kernel, you have a operating system. So when you say operating system, is like this. So storage is a hardware layer on top of that kernel, and that mount comes on top of this. So what is this? What is the C drive and D drive? It's a mount. Which mount? Which file system? It's a file system. Understand that. Aka, C drive. Okay. Are you getting my points?
Yes.
Any other questions, guys?
Rajesh, is there any limitation of creating a container?
Sir, you said, is there any limitation for getting? Can you please type this question? Chat window. Your voice is very low for me. I don't know about others, but for me it's very low.
Let me type the question in the chat.
Just please type in the question in the chat window. That will be okay for time being.
But is there any limitation? His question is there any limitation for the container creation? That's what his question.
Okay. Think in a simple way, sir. Is there any limitation to create a user? Tell me.
No.
No. So same way you can create as many containers you wanted, because I've been telling you, container is nothing but a user space. Here, look at this here. Container is nothing but the user space with their own network initialized, PID and MNT. So that means you can create as many users you wanted. But the questions probably you have in mind, like, okay, how many users I can create in my system? So let me tell you here, it's not decided by you, but it's decided by how many processes each user is running. Let's say I am having 20 users created in this machine, but 5 people have logged in, and each one user has logged in, is running too many applications. They are consuming too much of CPU, too much of RAM from the system. So it depends on that how many processes each user is running. That means depends on how many processes each container is running and consuming the resources of the system. That decides the number of containers you should run. So it depends on what kind of application you are running inside a user space and how much consuming. So you can create as many containers you wanted. You can run as many users you wanted. You run it. Depends on that how much each user CPU, RAM, and storage is utilizing. Depends on the number of containers for the system capacity you can get it. Did you understand this? Did you understand this?
Yep, but
any other questions, guys? Okay, so let's conclude this topic. What is Docker? So guys, Docker is a container management tool. It's a platform for Docker. Okay, they have a different kind of release. One is a community edition, CE, community edition. This is free, okay, and open source. Okay, this is the enterprise edition, EE. Okay, enterprise. Now this is paid. Okay. Now here Docker is written in the language called Golang. Okay, Golang. Now this is written by Solomon Hykes, which I said already. Okay. Now the latest release, if I see, I think 19.x. Okay, we need to validate one more time, but as per my memory, it's a 19.x. Okay. Now here, this is the Docker. So it's a container management tool, platform for the container. We are going to try community edition, written in Golang by Solomon Hykes, 19.x. Now what is the container? Container is nothing but initialization of one user space, okay, with their own one network, one PID, one MNT. So it's become a lightweight, independent application runtime environment managed by Docker. Okay, Docker takes that capabilities from the kernel itself. Now, because of that, I explained to you this one, and problems is solving this one. And what is a mount? Mount is equal to boot file system, root file system, user file system, application file system. Okay, any questions, guys? Okay, there's one question in the chat window. Let me read. So he is saying at a kernel level, PID is only one. At a Docker level, if it creates its own PID user, what is the guarantee that PID created under user does not clash with another PID created under user B? Okay, that's a very good question. Let me write it here. Questions, and this is the questions here. For answer is like this. Okay, understand this. So here, when you create a system label, there is one PID created, which is a 0, 1, 2, and 3. Whereas 3 is at the system level, there is one PID. Understand that. You are correctly saying that at the system level, one PID initialize happen. I also said the same thing here. Let me recall this. At the system level, how many PID you get it? 1. So here 1, 2, 3. Let's say 3 is me. This is Rajesh user space. This is Rajesh. That means when you logged in, you become a 3. It can be any number actually, but right now I'm 3. Now, if I am the user space, okay, now any processes which is running for the system, it will become a 3 point. Understand that. From internally, it will become a 0, 1, 2, 3. But for the system, you know what will become? 3.1, 2.1. This is a system. Or here 3, anyway, 3.0 like this. And here 3.3 like this. So internally, if you log into this user, if you will see 0, 1, 2, 3. But from outside at this label, see here. What view you get it? Inside that, you see the process table starting with a 0, 1, 2, 3. But these 4 processes at the system level, when you see, you will see 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 like this. Are you getting my points? Are you getting my points? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
No, sir, Ponu.
Okay. So now overall, this is now what next I'm going to cover. So guys, do we have other tools actually? So guys, Docker is not alone here, which manages the containers, which using that you can create a containers. Yes, Docker is not alone. We have so many container interface, okay, which you can get it, okay. Many of these are popular like a Rocket and Cryo and stuff like that. So many of these are there. So let me give you the list of this. So container interface, okay. So here, look at this list of top container runtime interface project. Okay, this I have not updated from last 1 year, but still this valid the top list of tools. If you go to this URL, here you will see these are the these are the tools apart from the Docker can help you to create a container. Okay, remember, container is a complete independent runtime environment. Okay, so you will see native, Docker, Arcanate, Cry, Containerd, Arclet, Cryo, Fracty. Okay, so these are the one which have a container runtime environment, container interface. Other tools, when I say container interface, okay, interface, understand that. Okay, so these are the other tools which you have. Now, next question is, what is the architecture? Okay, guys, there's some noise coming from someone. I'm not able to see from where it is coming.
Or any other issue, please say other issue or press 9.
It's 14389. So who has logged in from there? Can you please mute yourself?
If you are unable to log into Keycloud, please clear the cache cookies from the browser and restart your computer editing purposes.
Okay, I just
Use the home page and use the self-help.
so I have to spell because I don't know who has logged in. Okay, so guys, architecture of Docker. Okay, that's the next question. After this, we are going to learn Docker components. Okay, next topic is Docker components. Also, after that, I'm going to teach you Docker workflow. And after that, I'm going to teach you container lifecycle. Okay, so these are the 4 questions which I'm going to teach you. Okay, so get started with the architecture of Docker. So guys, first thing, in a Docker architecture, we have a human being. Okay, you have a human being. We communicate with one tool which is called Docker client. Okay, Docker client. And Docker client communicate with Docker daemon. Okay, Docker daemon communicate with Docker daemon communicate with the containerd. Containerd communicate with kernel, and then finally container gets created. Container gets created. Understand that? So here the question is, human connect to the Docker client. What is a Docker client? So Docker client is a tool which can receive all the commands passed by you. Now Docker client receive that commands and send to Docker daemon and through REST API. So the Docker client sends these commands to the Docker daemon through REST APIs. Okay. Now Docker daemon receive that command and then send this command to containerd. Now the question is, what is a containerd? So guys, containerd is the only who can communicate with the kernel. Yes, Docker daemon, which is a service of Docker, cannot communicate with the kernel directly. They have to use the containerd. Now the question is, what is a containerd? So containerd is a standard container runtime environment. That means it's an industry standard. Understand that? Read the keywords clearly. It's an industry standard. That means anyone who want to create a container, containers need to talk to the kernel to resource allocations. So for that, okay, they need to talk to the kernel, and kernel can be communicated with some tools like LXCs and containerd and some stuff like that. So containerd is the one of the industry standard container runtime environment. So Docker daemon communicate with the containerd to create a container. Before containerd, Docker we were using LXCs, but not anymore. Okay. So now containerd is the only one industry standard for creating a container. Okay. Container D can communicate with the kernel. Kernel has all the namespaces which I've been telling you, and C groups and securities and all stuff like that, which get allocated to the each containers, and then management is done by Docker daemon. So did you understand this architecture, guys? Did you understand this?
The REST API, right? So where actually it will be the
So by default, Docker client and Docker daemon running in the same host. But Docker client, it can be in a different machine, and Docker daemon, it can be in a different machines also. So they communicate through REST APIs. So for example, these two things together, we call it Docker engine. Okay, so whenever you call it Docker engine, these two things together coming into the picture. So now when I say Docker client, so see, this is the one host. It can be virtual machine or physical machines, I don't care. Okay, here you have installed Docker on top of the kernel, and Docker, and this is Docker daemon which is running as a service, and this is Docker client in the same machine. This communication between the Docker client and Docker daemon is the REST API. That means this can be in a different machine. Docker client can be in a different machine and send the communication to Docker D also. Make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
So now Docker daemon talk to the container D, and container D talk to the kernel, and kernel initialize the user with a own network mount and PID and load that runtime environment for the container. Simple. So everything is done by the kernel, but request has to be done by container D, and request is sent by the Docker daemon, and human send that Docker request to the Docker D through the Docker client. This is how it works. Understood, guys? Any questions on the architecture front?
Only Docker client can talk to Docker daemon because it's a REST endpoint, right? Any other client also people can use.
Only Docker client, only Docker client. Okay. Now guys, next question is Docker components. So Docker has a 4 important components. One is Docker engine, which I talked about above. Okay. Second is Docker image, Docker registry, and Docker container. These are the 4 components what we have. So container I have explained it, engine also I have explained it, image and registry I will explain it in some time.
If you liked our Docker session so far, please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest.
Thanks for watching.